how can you make the situation worse? How can you make the Russian invasion of Ukraine worse? I'm glad you asked, everyone. You just got to add a little bit of Pat Robertson, a little bit of evangelical Christianity, and a horrible situation gets that much worse. Do we have video? Well, let's take a look here and see what Mad Pat has to say about Putin, the Ukraine, the Bible, and of course, Israel.
I think you can say, well, Putin's out of his mind. Yes, maybe so. But at the same time, he's being compelled by God. He went into the Ukraine, but that wasn't his goal. His goal was to move against Israel ultimately. And God is getting ready to do something amazing, and that will be fulfilled. And what Putin is doing by moving as he is to set up Ukraine as a staging ground for one of the armies, and then across is Erdogan at Turkey, and you've got between them that little Dardanelles area, and it's going to happen. So I just say that is what's coming up. Is Putin crazy? Is he mad? Well, perhaps. But God says, I'm going to put hooks in your jaws, and I'm going to draw you into this battle, whether you like it or not. And he's being compelled, after the move into the Ukraine, he's being compelled to move again to get a land bridge and then across the Dardanelles with Turkey, and watch what's going to happen next. You read your Bible because it's coming to pass.
Sorry about that, everyone. Wonders of a live show. It's coming to pass, Pat Robertson, for the last 30, 40, 50, how many years now have you been saying this? And I'm surprised Pat Robertson's still alive, to tell you the truth. I haven't seen him in a while. It's like, wow. Wow. Good morning, by the way. My name is Andy Hall. This is all the news you can use to fight fascism at home and abroad. And once again, this brand of Christianity that so many people, so many Trump supporters hold on to, this evangelical Christianity is a death cult. You can almost see the little glimmer in Pat Robertson's eyes when he talks about the potential end of the world coming. I'm going to check out the chat. If you're watching on Twitter or on Facebook, you're going to see that I talk to the people in the chat here on YouTube. If you want to join in the conversation, please come over to the Laughing in Disbelief channel on YouTube and join in on the fun. That's what I was wondering, Crypt Keeper. I was wondering, one, I didn't even know that Pat Robertson was still alive. Two, wow, he is really, really old. And I could see why he wants to be raptured up, because he's going to die pretty soon, right? Thank you, Big Zebra, for upvoting the video. And the thing is, right, what's scary, and I know that those of us who are in the secular movement, atheists, agnostics, nuns, we've seen this time and time again, that people take this type of end times theology seriously, and those people have positions in power, right? Right? How does that kind of death cult thinking muddy the brains of people in charge of the military, of the economy, of politics? It's scary. That's what it is. And it just makes things worse. Big Zebra. As the church teaches us, all you need is love and lots of cash. I think that's the prosperity gospel there. Big Zebra. Good morning. Good morning, Jenna. Hope you're doing well this morning. And John Hudson. Yes, Blazing. I've seen numbers. I haven't seen recent numbers, but I've seen that there are more Russian soldiers dead than Ukrainian soldiers. Yeah, I've seen numbers. We're going to be covering that, by the way, too, about what is going amidst in the Russian invasion of Ukraine, because you just got to turn on the news and see that it is not going as well as Putin hoped it would go. All right, what's going to be our next story? First story was Mad Pat Robertson. You know, the United States of America is one of the most divided countries in the world, I would say. All right, in terms of our tribalism, in terms of blue states versus red states versus blue states. But there is a glimmer of hope for solidarity around the Ukraine invasion, the Russia invasion of Ukraine. Polls: 74% of Americans called Russia's Ukraine invasion unjustified. And I know what many of you are thinking, that 26%. What is wrong with that 26%? Could they all be Trump supporters? We're going to get to that. Even now, Republicans remain less likely than Democrats to support strong measures in response to Putin's actions, such as implementing severe economic sanctions to counter the invasion. 62% of Democrats versus 49% of Republicans. Sending arms to Ukraine to use in its own defense. 49% of Democrats versus 35% of Democrats. And sending troops to the region to bolster defenses, but not Ukraine. 31% versus 19%, or sending troops to region to bolster defenses, including the Ukraine. 24% versus 17%. So you can see the differences there are differences between Democrats and Republicans. There's no doubt about it. But let's look at where we agree. Only 6% of Americans say Putin was justified in invading Ukraine. So this was a question that was posed. As you may know, Russian President Vladimir Putin has sent Russian troops to invade Ukraine. Are Putin's actions justified? And out of U.S. adults, only 6% said it was justified. Good job, 6% of adults. So you should go out to your psychiatrists and mental health counselors and get some help. 20% are not sure. They probably can't identify Ukraine on the map. And 74%, woohoo, not justified. And you can see the breakdown right there between Democrats, independents, and Republicans, and those people who voted for Joe Biden and those people who voted for Donald J. Trump. Do I have another chart? Yes, I do. Check it out. Half of Americans support sanctioning Russia. Far fewer support sending troops. And you can just take a look here. Links in the description below, of course. Most Democrats, 62%, want to have severe sanctions on Russia. Only 49% of Republicans. And basically, this is just a breakdown of the numbers that we just went over. So let's talk about another fascist Republican. We're not talking about Pat Robertson anymore. We're not talking about those Trump supporters who are supporting Vladimir Putin. We're talking well, maybe we are. We're going to talk about Representative Lauren Boebert says Canada and the U.S. need to be liberated like the Ukraine. Oh, my fictitious God. I'm going to read that again. Representative Lauren Boebert, she's from Colorado, everyone, says Canada and the U.S. need to be liberated like Ukraine. As everyday Ukrainian people take up arms against Russian invaders in a desperate bid to hang onto their democracy, Representative Lauren Boebert on Sunday compared their situation to protesting truckers in Canada who didn't want to get the COVID-19 vaccine. I pray for Ukraine and I wish them the best. They have a great president right now who has really said clearly, live free or die. He said, I don't need a ride. Give me ammunition. The fight is right here. Boebert said in an interview with Fox News personalities Kayleigh McEnany and Pete Hegseth at the CPAC convention that aired on Fox Nation streaming service. But we also have neighbors to the north who need freedom and need to be liberated. We need that right here as home as well. I don't know what kind of word salad that woman. It actually hurts me, and I'm sure it hurts some of you too, to say that she supports President Zelensky over in Ukraine, while at the same time saying that the truckers in Canada need to be liberated. That seems to be a contradiction. I don't know. Is there video? I have video of this. Let's take a look. Yeah, that's a trigger warning, by the way, because I'm going to show Lauren Boebert right here.
So I pray for Ukraine, and I wish them the best. They have a great president right now who's really said clearly, live free or die. He said, I don't need a ride. Give me ammunition. The fight is right here. But we also have neighbors to the north who need freedom and need to be liberated, and we need that right here at home as well. And neighbors to our south.
What is she proposing in terms of liberating the good people of Canada from what? Peer-reviewed studies in science? Is there more to the article? Yeah, there is more to the article. Here we go. Hey, that's not the right article, Andy. Where is the right article? Hey, well, I think that's good enough, actually, to cover that. Once again, the joys of having a live show. And I have to find my engineer, which is me. We're going to do the halftime tummy rub show where we take a breath, try to keep ourselves sane, and then we'll get back to the last story about what's going wrong with Putin's invasion of Ukraine.
All right, people, I think it is time for a loaf check. Oh my goodness, we've got no tail, not a single paw visible. I think that's a 10 out of 10 loaf.
Gonna check out the chat and see how everyone's doing. Oh, by the way, of course, there's no ads on this channel. Everything here is supported by viewers like you, biting PBS's style there by using that line, by YouTube patrons, by members, by people who throw super chats in the chat, by people who, throw me a couple of shekels on my PayPal and Venmo, which is in the description below. Thank you all. No ads here. Here it is. Putin is compelled by God to threaten using nuclear weapons on Ukraine. Yes, KCA Randy, that's exactly what Pat Robertson says. But you see, when you think about the hiddly-piddly, non-rational thinking of evangelical Christians, if you look at the Old Testament about how God made Pharaoh enslave the Jews, right? If you look at that great story, you have Moses going, "Let my people go," and Pharaoh going, "Okay, I'll let you go." And then God uses Pharaoh like a sock puppet and says, "No, I'm going to change your mind." So yeah, maybe Pat has something legitimate with how the Bible, teaches people how God interacts with dictators. Big Zebra says, because PBS is publicly owned in the USA, you're free to take all of its intellectual property. Oh, that's beautiful. So what's going on? And once again, all the links to these stories are in the description below, everyone. What is really going on in the Ukraine? Poor planning, low troop morale, and fierce Ukrainian resistance. Why Russia is getting bogged down. And the thing is, we can get more into this in the after party after show. If you want to be on the panel, the link is in the description below. If you just want to see the panel, the link to the channel is in the description below. So there are a variety of different reasons why the Russians are getting bogged down. Now, let's remember, it's only the sixth day of the invasion. Washington, Russia's invasion of Ukraine on its fifth day, Monday, has been stymied by fierce creative resistance and apparently poor planning by the Russian military. U.S. defense officials and experts say the combination has left the Russian force charged with assaulting Kyiv, about 15 miles from the city's capital city center, according to senior Defense Department official. That force entered Ukraine from Belarus shortly after the war started. Meanwhile, some Russian combat vehicles have been abandoned, out of fuel, while others have been reduced to smoking husks by Ukrainian attacks. And the Russians, despite a vastly better air force, have not achieved control of Ukraine's airspace. If you cannot achieve air supremacy, you are in the trouble bubble, basically. And are we going to talk about World War II a little bit? Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about World War II. I don't think, I'm still in trouble with YouTube. Whenever I look in my creator studio, there's always you have a warning. And if you get into more trouble, we're just going to make sure you're just going to be banned. Oh, so I'm going to be careful. So in 1941, that guy in Germany, the one with the mustache, he invaded the USSR with the Wehrmacht. And that guy thought it would be a really fast fight. He said, basically, that guy name rhymes with Himmler. Hitler. Yeah, I guess that rhymes with Himmler. We just have to kick the door in and the whole thing's going to fall apart. That was what the Germans thought in 41, that they just have to just like launch a force in there. The government's going to collapse. They're going to win. It's going to be easy. And that was a miscalculation, history shows. And perhaps the Russians were just expecting the Ukrainians to fold rather quickly. Not happening. Experts attribute some of the missteps to hubris inside Russian President Vladimir Putin's military leadership. They failed to bring along enough supplies, assuming quick capitulation by Ukrainian forces and a speedy collapse of the government in Kyiv. Other issues dogging the Russians: an operation spread too thin, poor equipment, and low morale among the troops. They planned their logistics on a blitzkrieg, said James Townsend, an adjunct senior fellow at the Center of New America's Security's Transatlantic Security Program, referring to the concept of overwhelming an adversary quickly with superior force. Of course, they only used half the force that they had. There's still a lot of forces outside of Ukraine. They attacked Ukraine from several different points. And so to achieve that kind of localized, overwhelming military force, they could not do with the amount of forces that they had. Let's see what we got here. The city's residents have sheltered in underground bunkers and subway stations and accepted weapons from the government to join fight the streets as Russian airstrikes rain down on the capital and other cities. Oh, that was all about Boebert, and I'm sorry about that. So what we can say right now, and the article that I just quoted from, is that the Ukrainians are being helped, of course, by Javelin missiles, the Javelin shoulder missile system that we talked about a couple of days ago, of course. The Russian tanks and armored personnel carriers are not doing well against such weapons. And even though I personally think it's only a matter of time before the Russians achieve military control over Ukraine, but will we be able to occupy the country of 40 million people with a force of only 190,000, even if they bring Belarusians in? How many people does it take to occupy a country that doesn't want to be occupied? This is the problem that the U.S. faced in Iraq, of course. And when you think about it, during World War II, after the war, there were 250,000 U.S. soldiers in Japan. 250,000 soldiers in Japan. Is the force the Russians have right now going to be sufficient to manage and occupy Ukraine? No. It's the same. It's very similar to the situation when Bush the Younger attacked Iraq and decided to occupy that country. History doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. I think that's the saying. And we're seeing a lot more of that. Going to check out the chat and see what everyone's thinking about the situation. I don't know what's going on in the chat. Richard Madsen is here. Hello, Richard. Hope you're doing well. Godless Scummer is somewhere in there. Hey, Godless Scummer. Glad to see that you're here. Ukraine is already radioactive. Yes, well, Chernobyl, indeed. I was talking to the girlfriend about it the other night, and she turns to me and she goes, I had no idea that Chernobyl was in Ukraine. It's like, oh, yeah. Yeah, indeed. All right. I think that's it for the show today. I think we can talk about whatever else you all want to reflect on the after party, after show. We can get more into the situation in Ukraine. We talk about anything you want to, and that's the benefit of having the after party after show. Once again, links in the description below. Thank you, everyone, for showing up today. John Hudson, I see you out there. And here we go. Inquisitive Bacon says, given the demoralizing losses, the economy tanking, and its people rebelling, I really wouldn't be surprised if Russia loses this. Maybe, you know, it is awfully early. It's still the first inning of the conflict over in Ukraine. The thing is, when you talk about the greater conflict, because obviously Vladimir Putin sees the battle of Ukraine in the greater conflict of his asymmetrical, of his hybrid war against the West and against the order, the international order. This is how Putin sees himself. At least this is just not me saying it. This is how a lot of people smarter than me say this, are saying this, is that Putin is trying to disrupt the order. But in long-term conflicts like this, economics matter. Whether you're talking about North versus South in the American Civil War, whether you're talking about Germany versus, or the Central Powers versus the Allies in the First World War, the Axis versus the Allies in the Second World War, or the Cold War, the bigger economy, the more resilient economy, that side typically wins. And the Russian economy, as we've gone over time and time again, is the size of Italy. Its main source of income is oil and natural gas. Can the Russian state really do a type of Cold War type of conflict? And it just can't, not over time. It can't do that. So the country, the Russian state is going to, you can already hear it creaking. You can already hear it creaking. All right. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to drop a cat video. I'm going to drop a thank you video for all of you who are contributing. And I'll see you at 9:30 on the other channel for the after party after show.
There once was a cat with a hungry belly. The name of the cat was Whiskers Jelly. His throat was dry and his bowl was bare. Meow, me furry cats meow.